Welcome to Pressure Points. Our topic is a preview of Tesla earnings. They, of course, are going to report Wednesday after the close. And as of this recording, shares of Tesla up about 3%, outpacing the NASDAQ up 1% some change. That, of course, because they added a couple cities today, that being Orlando and Tampa, and to the mix for the robotaxi fleet. But overall, in entering this earnings period, shares have been under pressure over the past week. Even with this bump recently today, shares are down about 6% and about 7% over the past month. And that compares to the NASDAQ, which is down about 2% over those two periods. So big picture, there is a little bit of skittishness going into the stock, going into this print, in part because of what's happened with the broader AI trade related to Tesla, also in part in terms of some unanswered questions. And I would put the overall topic in this is that this is a unique earnings call in the sense that there are more moving parts than typical. And I'll hit those right out of the gate. The two new moving parts is related to Capex. That was introduced in the March quarter, kind of a surprise when they talked about Capex. And then separately, a better understanding of what's going on with deliveries, that big surge we saw in June. How sustainable is it through the back half and into next year? And so previously, deliveries has become less of an important topic, but those two are more front and center. So those are kind of the new context. A lot of the old things still matter, but let's just kind of jump in them one by one. And we will start with that delivery number. Deliveries in the June quarter were up 25% year over year. That compares to the street that was expecting a 6% increase. So this was a monster beat. But of course, when they reported those numbers, the stock actually traded down 6% in the first day of trading after they reported those numbers. And the general takeaway was that, yes, it was a big number. However, it was aided by higher gas prices. And those higher gas prices are not sustainable. Eventually, the conflict in the Middle East is going to subside. And along with that, we'll see lower gas prices, so that tailwind goes away. My sense is that we probably are at a position where gas prices do matter. And I think that that is a good long-term reason to drive demand, higher gas prices. I think that what we've seen in the Middle East is an indication of just how touchy oil prices can be, with some tension in a very small region. And I don't think that if there is even resolution near term, what's going on with the US and Iran, I don't think that that long-term risk is alleviated. In other words, I think gas prices are going to remain relatively elevated, which I do believe is going to have a positive impact. As a point of reference, gas prices in the June quarter were up 30% on average versus in the US versus what they were in the March quarter. And since then, in the month of July, they've been up a couple percent in the US. Europe saw a similar, actually a little bit more of an increase in fuel prices during that period. And so it was a clear tail. So what does this mean for ultimately the September and December numbers? And as it stands today, the September quarter, the street is looking for down 8%. Now, a year ago in the September quarter, they sunset those tax credits in the US, which caused a 7% increase in deliveries in September of 25. And so it's a little bit of a difficult comp, given it was the only quarter last year where they saw positive delivery growth. That's why the street's modeling that down 8% from the plus 26 we just saw in the June quarter. My sense is it's probably going to end up being flattish. And separately, as we move towards the December quarter, the street's looking for 10% growth. I think there's going to be a little bit of upside to that 10%. As far as how much commentary the company is going to give on this, my sense is they'll have some language related to kind of their continue to see favorable demand or something like that, that probably will cause analysts to move up those numbers. Now, I started out with the delivery number. There's a lot of you who believe that the deliveries just don't matter anymore. And I would attest that I think they still do matter. Of course, more vehicles on the road creates new revenue opportunities, whether it be through FSD or training for robotaxi. And I think that that is a unique business. And I think they're just uniquely positioned to capitalize relative to what other car makers are doing, not only in electrification, but autonomy. And so that's the delivery number. The second topic, let's talk a little bit about that Capex. That number was going into the March print. The street was looking for 20 billion in Capex for Tesla in calendar 26. They guided to 25 billion. The stock in after hours traded down 2 or 3% when they made that comment. So clearly it's something that kind of stung investors. It surprised me that it stung investors, but it did nonetheless. And I think it kind of plays in the broader narrative of investors still are struggling with this Capex equation relative to the profitability piece. When we think about Tesla more broadly, what this step up in Capex has meant is that they're probably going to go into, for next year, into a position where they're going to lose 5 or 10 billion in cash. And probably more like 10 to 15 billion in cash. They currently have just over 30 billion. So they are going to go into cash burning mode, given what they outlined when they reported the March quarter, is that cash, that Capex increase is for a 2-year. They talked about a 2-year investment phase. The street surprisingly is expecting Capex next year in 27 to be 21 billion, down from 25.6 in calendar 26. So there needs to be some revisions higher in that Capex number for next year. My sense is that they will reiterate their 2-year kind of investment phase, and that probably will yield some of those analyst numbers for Capex next year increasing. And that to me is the biggest risk factor going into this print. So that's the Capex number. The third topic is all things related to autonomy, and I just kind of put them together in a big bucket. That, of course, is the robotaxi, ramping of cybercab, Optimus, and FSD. And so on the robotaxi front, we, of course, saw those 2 new cities getting added this year. That means that they have added essentially 5 cities by the middle of the year. Their target was for 7. I'm going to give them credit. They added 3 cities, including Miami, in the month of July, but we'll give them credit for that kind of coming mid-year. So they got to 5 of the 7, and I think that is a sign that things continue to improve. They're feeling more confident. Elon's feeling less paranoid. That's the language he's been using around the safety piece of this. So it is important, and it is, I think, a major win that they are expanding this. Now, as they add these new cities, the number of vehicles is very limited. They don't break out the number of vehicles. They have broken out the number of autonomous robotaxi miles driven, and that was 1.7 million in the March quarter, which basically doubled quarter over quarter from the December quarter. So they're seeing some nice growth there, but it's important to note these numbers are really small in terms of the number of vehicles on the road. I put the market share right now, if you're looking at total autonomous miles driven on the ride sharing side, that's somewhere around 4%, 3-4% for Tesla, and the rest goes to Waymo. And so on the robotaxi front, making progress. I think they'll probably add 3 more cities by the end of this year, and that's generally where the street is at in terms of robotaxi. Next on the autonomy front is in terms of cybercab production. They talked about ramping production by the end of the year. I think that that's probably less likely. They are in pilot production today. My sense is that they probably bump that to the first part of calendar 27. If they do reiterate that cybercab is going to be ramping this year, that would be a positive for the stock on the earnings. Next up, FSD. Elon's talked about exiting this year, being fully available in the US. Of course, that's deja vu. We could probably go back to 2018 and outline comments that are similar to that. The biggest X factor here is related to the legislation around this and laws. And so I think this is still largely out of Tesla's hands. I don't think that there are any real expectations from investors that FSD is going to kind of miraculously ramp. That said, if we look at the number of Teslas on the road that have currently subscribing to FSD and paying, it's about 14%. So there's still a very large piece that they can continue to grow there. And that, of course, would be very profitable revenue, which gets us to the Optimus piece. Optimus, in terms of how the outlook, the expectations are continue to be very low. They've talked about, he's had this 1 million unit number. Is kind of 2030, I believe, when he talked about that. That doesn't matter. What matters, I think, with Optimus is just continued talk about a track to production. And it's still very loose. I don't think there are many expectations around Optimus. Next topic is related to profitability. And this, of course, a well-traveled road, that being gross margins, automotive gross margins, X credits. Last quarter it was 19.1%, 19.2%. It's looking for 19.5% this quarter. That's where the street's at. My sense is they're going to show some upside there, as they should, given that big ramp in deliveries. And they didn't do much on the discounting side. So if I'm right that there wasn't a lot of discounting to get there, then we probably should see some upside to margins. It probably backs off in that margin number probably backs off in the September quarter. So that may be kind of greeted with a little bit of a mixed bag. But overall, I expect a positive trend on the automotive gross margin front. I think any number better than 19 is positive. If it dips below 19, that's a suggestion that there was more promotional activity to get to that growth number, and that may be viewed as a negative. And last, but not least, and this goes in the toy department topic on this earnings call, is when will SpaceX and Tesla combine? I put this probability in an 80% chance that it happens over the next 5 years. Of course, SpaceX's IPO, and they're outlining kind of what they're great at and their view that they want to be a vertical stack AI, which includes physical AI, and also the fact that they don't really do physical AI today. It just kind of leaves this very obvious combination. I think most investors generally believe that these two will come together. As far as how they come together right now, the market caps are pretty similar. As of this recording, we have Tesla's market cap at 1.4 trillion and SpaceX at 1.6 trillion. So my sense is that if this is a few years away, SpaceX market cap continues to expand, and that probably sets up for SpaceX acquiring Tesla. Don't hold your breath for it. Something that's going to continue to be a topic. And I think it still falls in the category of close to a function of time, not an if, but rather a when. If I was going to put all this together, I think that the long-term roadmap, everything that Tesla is doing around the deliveries, the profitability, what they're doing in terms of moving some of those other autonomy and AI focuses forward are all intact. The one wild card is, if I'm right, that they're going to talk up Capex for next year, how's the street going to view that? On behalf of Pressure Points, I'm Gene. Bye for now.